This is BuggySoft, Program Design and Class Composition. My name is Chris Lee and my student number is S224817878. For some housekeeping again, the idea here was that we were going to be refactoring a program and we were redesigning it with classes as we saw fit. To do so, I used 3 classes. They are Task Manager, Categories, and Task. Now, the program itself is going to use an instance of the Task Manager class, and that's going to control all of our categories and tasks from there. The categories and tasks classes sort of define objects. Now, categories are going to manage an individual category, and that's going to have a list of tasks for each object. And the task itself is going to manage an individual task with a description, a due date, and the importance, whether or not a task is set to important or not. So for the program itself, we will launch the debugger with function F11. And the first thing we do is create an instance of our Task Manager class. Now in here, the Task Manager constructor defines categories, which is a new list, and that is going to store objects of the category class. We have a Boolean called isRunning, and we've set that to true. That's just going to be used for our menu because we're using a while loop, so we want that condition to remain true. Now I've added 2 persistent sort of categories that will remain through every run of the program. They are work and personal. For the first one, we're using add category in the Task Manager class, and we are calling categories, which was a list with the category to store category objects. And it is going to store new category instance objects, and we're going to pass it a name. So for the persistent ones, I think the first was work and the second was personal. We're in the category class now, and we have a name property and a tasks property. Both of these are read and write. So the idea here is that we're going to have values we want to edit, and these are going to be sort of instances of, or values in a list of class objects, I should say. So this is our list, and it's going to have task objects. Now skip over this one because it's the same thing. We're in our menu now. Here we're just setting the color of the text to blue, and then we're calling our show menu method, which is defined just here. Now we're using a for each loop here, which is similar to a for loop, but the idea here is that we're going to loop through all of the elements. We don't really care about the index, and we're not going to modify any of the elements, so we're just going to loop through them. And for our condition, we have an instance of our menu options called option, and we're using enum, we're using the get values method, and that's going to return all of the values in our enumeration. We're also using type of, and the idea here is that it's going to return a system object, and we define what object we want returned in the parentheses, and we've defined menu options. Now this loop is also using string interpolation, and the idea here is that anything within the curly brackets is just going to be inserted into the string, so any expression we put in there. And so for us, in this case, we have an option of our menu options, and we're casting it to an integer. So it'll say 1, 2, 3, or some other number, a full stop, and then we're returning an option itself. So that'll just give us a name of the value in our menu options and enumeration. This has got quite a few to work through, so I'll just quickly skip through. So for this example, we will add a task. So to do so, we'll go to our switch statement and we'll look at all of our different cases. We'll move to the appropriate one, and we will call the print all categories method of the Task Manager class. Here it's just going to loop through. It's going to find out well, we've initialized I as 0, while I is less than the count of the categories list. We're going to increment I, setting the text to blue again, and we're just going to print the task at the ith position. This is some more sort of formatting that we're doing with our strings, and the idea here is that we have a string, so this is a hyphen, and then we're filling to this sort of our alignment that follows after it, so we're filling to 50 places, or 50 characters rather. Nope. just to speed it up a little bit. All right, now that all the categories have been printed, we have the two persistent ones that we sort of set up at the start of this tutorial. They were work and personal. Neither of those had any tasks to print, so we've just printed some text saying that there's no tasks yet. Then we need to select which category we'd like to add a task to. For this example, we'll say personal. I'm going to add a task description. We can say recording. We'll come down here. We'll provide a time that the task is due. That'll be, let's say, 11:30. This is a 24-hour time, so this is going to be 11:30 a.m. Then we're going to specify the importance of the task. We'll begin with false. And then that jumped out of it, but we call the add task category method from the task manager class, and then we pass the values that we've just assigned there. So category, the description, the time, and the importance. In add task categories, we begin by creating a category instance object of the category class. We said it's a null. We're using for each again, so we're going to go through all of the categories, or we're going to go through the category list and check every category in there. And the idea here is that we're going to find out if the category that the user wants to add a task to exists, and if it does, we'll select that. So we'll assign the new category, which is what we're searching for, to the existing category. And then we're adding it there, which was with the information that we've provided just before. Now we're over in the task class. So we're initializing all those values that we've passed. Again, these are using read and write properties. Okay, now we've successfully added a task to our category. So we'll show the menu again, see if I can skip over that. And so what I want to do now is I'd like to print the tasks that we have. So I've selected option 6. Just going to iterate through that list again. Now that we have our task there, we can see that it was task 1, the description was recording, and the due date was 11:30. The task itself is written in blue, so we know the importance of the task was false. The next thing that we're going to do is change the importance of the task, which will highlight it for us. So we'll go through our enumeration options again, get that menu printed. We'll choose option 5 here to set a task as important. Now we want a description name for the task. And for us, our task description name was recording. It's using the set as important method from the task manager class. And again, we're going to loop through our categories. Then we're going to loop through our tasks. And then once we're in here, what we're doing is we're determining whether or not the description that the user provided matched a description of a task that was in the category. We're going to set the is important boolean to important, or true rather. We're going to change the color of the text to yellow, and then we're going to use some more string interpolation, and we'll just return some information to the user, just letting them know the task was marked as important. Then we're going to reset the color. So that has now printed there, task recording marked as important. So if we were to come back now and then print all of our tasks, we would see that the task will be yellow now instead of blue. So we'll choose print as our option. Do all of our formatting. Print all of our categories first and the tasks in them. Actually, the output should be there by now. So I was wrong before when I said I was going to set the color to yellow. It actually sets it to red, but we can see that initially when we added the task, it was set to blue. Now it's set to red, so we know that it's important. I might actually end the program there. And just before we close off, there was actually a lot more functionality added to the program, but in the interest of time, I've cut a bunch of it. So for the task manager, one of the methods, for example, was the option to move tasks between categories. So what we'll do there, just a sort of a quick overview, is we'll need a source category and a destination category and a description of the task itself. We'll create instance objects of the category class. We'll set them to null to begin with. We will loop through the categories and make sure that the categories exist. And then if they do, we're going to move on to focusing on the task and create an instance of the task class and set that to null as well. Then we'll loop through our tasks and make sure that the description they gave us matches an existing task. And if it does, we're just going to use the add and remove task methods, which come from the category class. Which is just here, and that's just essentially simple list methods. So tasks add and then tasks remove there. Thank you.